Hello, my name's Jade and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in February. I read 5 books to completion so far. I'm filming this on the last day of February, February 28th, and I'm currently in the middle of 2 other books as well. And I'm definitely going to finish one of them by tonight, but I might finish both by tonight, so it might end up being 7. The first book I finished this month was Defy the Night by Brigid Kemmerer. Brigid Kemmerer wrote the Cursebreakers trilogy, which I read last November, and I did enjoy those ones quite a lot. They weren't anything like groundbreaking for me, but I enjoyed them. I had fun. I started this one in January, but then I put it down to read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue because I definitely wanted to finish that one that month, and this one was struggling with it a little bit. I wasn't reading it very quickly. It's about, there's like a plague type pandemic happening, and the only way to treat this illness is with these certain moonflower petals that you can only get in certain parts of Kandala. And a lot of people can't afford extra. A lot of people, I think, maybe aren't even getting like the mandatory stuff that they're supposed to be given. A lot of people getting really sick and dying, and so starts a rebellion is kind of taking place. And we switch point of views from our main characters. Tessa, who is relatively poor, she's an orphan and she's just trying to help people. And then we switch to Corric, the king's younger brother, the prince, and they are trying to rule this kingdom and trying to help the people, but also at the mercy of the people that own the moonflower petals, have to buy it from them. A very corrupt system. And that was really interesting. That aspect was really interesting. But I had a lot of problems with it. I wasn't very obsessed with the characters. I wasn't a huge fan of them. I didn't find them particularly entertaining even, which is kind of important, you know, in your character you want them to be entertaining. They weren't particularly clever. Like, they're supposed to be capable people that are able to pull, you know, big things off, and yet I was always 5 steps ahead of them. It was very frustrating. The pacing kind of felt a little strange to me. It felt like I was always waiting for something to happen. It was quite slow, which isn't inherently a problem. It just felt very strange. I think that's why I didn't have very much motivation, because I was like, okay, well, can something exciting happen soon, please? It has a lot of royal politics going on in this one, which is interesting, but it felt like we were too busy staying with our characters and their, like, not insignificant problems, but they were clunking it up so that we didn't have all this interesting political drama. Like, it didn't feel really in depth in any way. The writing in the Cursebreakers, I definitely noticed it was simple. There were like a few mistakes here and there, or not mistakes, but things that are kind of taboo, but I really felt the clunkiness in this one. And I don't know if it's because I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue like halfway between and then come back to this, like it was just riddled, not greatly formed sentences and very simplified, and a lot of the time there was a lot of overwriting that it like really stood out to me because I just read Addie LaRue, which is beautiful writing. Felt really flat for me. So I would probably read the next one because I'm a completionist. I don't like not reading them. And I didn't hate it. I didn't not enjoy myself either. I would give it somewhere between a 5 and a 6 out of 10. It's a very pretty cover though. I love like how this is like holographic. Next up was an audiobook that I listened to, and that is The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. This actually came today, this morning. Perfect timing. I read The Honeymooners in January and I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to keep listening to their stuff while I did chores and just like simple things around the house. I'm like addicted to listening to Christina Lauren when I do like simple house tasks. It just keeps me company and puts me in a good mood. I really like the cover for this one. I think there are a few different like color schemes and whatnot, but I really like the purple and the blue and the green. I like hunted down this cover specifically. I really wanted this one. The premise is single mom Jessica Davis is a data and statistics wizard, but no amount of number crunching can convince her to step back into the dating world. So the Soulmate Equation is this app. No, it's called Genetic Alley. An app that using your DNA will try and match you with another person, like what they think will make you compatible to another person based on your DNA. And there's different levels of matches, like different percentages, and the bigger the percentage, the better the match, naturally. She decides to sign up to the app, and she gets a match, and it's with someone she wasn't expecting. That's what I'm going to tell you. That's what I think you need to know. I think it'd be more fun not knowing who it is. I enjoyed this one. I didn't enjoy it as much as The Honeymooners. What were my problems with it? I wasn't obsessed with the premise of this one. It was interesting. I enjoyed myself, but it wasn't like my favorite thing ever. All the data, stats, stuff like those words were just thrown around so much. It was like, but do you understand what you're talking about? Do you understand this data? And there were times I was like, okay, this is kind of impressive. Like, there's genuine jargon, it feels like, being thrown around here. But it just went over my head, and I just like, not only did it go in my head, like, I didn't care. The climax didn't feel that dramatic to me. The stakes didn't feel very high. It never really felt like that. Like, nothing ever felt that dramatic throughout the story. It kind of felt like we were slowly plodding along. There isn't a problem necessarily to that. It just didn't affect me very much either. I mean, it was cute, it was easy to read. They're rom-coms. I don't find them particularly, like, hilarious. I might giggle every now and then, I might laugh every now and then. I think the Honeymooners might have been funnier. The characters in that one were snarkier. I enjoyed it. I had a fun time. I think I would put it above Inner Holidays but below the Honeymooners on my list of like Christina Lauren books that I've read. I would give a 7 out of 10. Either a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. And the next book that I finished is another Christina Lauren book. When I listen to these, I will have another book that like I sit down and read before bed. I just kind of chip away at these throughout the week, so finish this one before whatever physical book I was reading, I guess. This is an older Christina Lauren compared to the other ones that I read, so I was kind of interested about what it'd be like for that aspect. I kind of knew I wasn't going to be obsessed with the premise of this one. It's like a fake marriage situation. Holland has a crush on Calvin, who busks in the subway station, and so she gets him this part in her uncle's Broadway show of a sort. Calvin's visas run out, and so to keep him around, they get married. I kind of liked the trajectory of this one, actually. I thought it was interesting. Like, it happened very naturally, it felt, and it was very wholesome. Main character, she annoyed me quite a lot though. There were just so many times where she would kind of like make the same mistake. She presumed things in her head and would never communicate about them. By like the second or third time, I just was like, can you just talk to him, please? Have we not proven in the past that it's all in your head? Our main character, Holland, she got an MFA in writing, I think, but she's not written anything since, and she's kind of feeling a bit stuck in her life. And I found that aspect really interesting. It dabbles a little bit in why we write and themes of inspiration and whatnot, and that was interesting. I enjoyed that. It wasn't, again, super in-depth or anything. One thing I will say about this is I listened to it via audiobook, and I didn't love the narrator, and I do think that at least had a little bit of an impact on my experience as a whole. There were definitely times where it felt very jarring to me. I mean, I did enjoy it still. Like, I didn't hate it. I just didn't like it as much as I think any of the other Christina Lauren I read. This is like at the bottom of the list. I enjoyed it. It was fine. I'd give it like 6 out of 10. That's a positive. That's 3 stars. 6 out of 10. Maybe more like a 5 out of 10. I hate the star system. I always feel pressured by it. Onto a book that I feel more sure of my opinions of. That is Skulduggery Pleasant Bedlam. This is the 3rd book in the new Skulduggery Pleasant series, the Phase 2, the second era, whatever you want to call it. I enjoyed the first 2 of the series so far, but this is definitely my favourite of the new series. It definitely felt like it stepped up to a next level. Any kind of the problems that I had with the previous 2 I didn't have in this one. My Goodreads review is easily my favourite of the new series thus far. Such chaos, such humour, such peril. Take. Oh, the end! I keep like, oh yeah, I'm excited to read the next one, whatever. And then I remember what happened in the end, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to know what happens. There's been a villain since the first book in this series called Abyssinia. Oh, I've just now realised I've never actually said her name aloud. Abyssinia. Abyss. It must be Abyss. Abyssinia. And I really liked what Derek did with her. She was such an interesting character, such a fun character, like especially for a villain, and his villains have always been great. She's actually this gal right here, and I really like what he did with her in this one. There was lots of like little side adventures. There's a lot of stuff happening in this one. It kind of felt like that chaos that you get towards the end of a series where just everything is happening at once and you don't know if you're going to be able to do it all. And I think Derek does that really well. I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed everything that happened. Definitely at least an 8 out of 10, maybe like an 8.5. I don't know. I need to ruminate on it, but at the very minimum, 8. I give it 5 stars on Goodreads though. And then the last thing that I finished this month was Giant Days early registration. I talk about Giant Days in virtually every wrap-up I do. It's a graphic novel series following girls in university. Very cute, very easy, very fun. So I don't know if this was written before they wrote the rest of the series or if this was something that he just wrote for fun. What happens here, this is supposed to be before we see them in the first volume, like their days as freshers, which when we first see them it's like at the end of fresher week when like their friendship's already been confirmed. Like what happens doesn't line up with what they talk about I'm pretty sure in volume 1, I think different things are happening. It feels like this was setting up for a slightly different tone and trajectory and story, which makes me think it was written beforehand. Because of that, in my mind, it's separate. Like, this didn't actually happen to these characters, because there are characters in here that is setting up for them to be like good friends with, and then they just kind of disappear off the face of the earth. They're not in the normal series. There's things that the characters get to know in this one that they don't know in the normal series. Compared to the rest of the series, it felt kind of underdeveloped. We were jumping around all over the place, and it also felt pretty outlandish. It was hard for me to get on board. It just felt very okay. It was fine. Give it like maybe a 5 out of 10. It was fine. Maybe even a 4. It was kind of meh to me. I prefer the rest of the normal series. I'm glad I read it, but I don't know if I'd reread it anytime soon. And then I guess I'll quickly talk about the 2 books that I'm in the middle of. The first of which is House of Sky and Breath, the second book in the Crescent City series. I'll give you a little taster of my feelings of this one because I'm on page 745. Like, I've only got 65-ish pages to go. I'm getting close to the end. I struggled with this one a little bit more. I have been a little more distracted as of late. Like, I've had like real life stress stuff that I've been thinking about more. The closer we've gotten to the end, the more kind of grounded I've become, and the more I'm kind of like, okay, this is interesting. What is gonna happen? Especially like now we're in the end, I definitely say like the last 100, 200 pages have been my favorite thus far. Don't know if it's as good as the first one. For my prediction would be that I'm really enjoying it, but it's not like phenomenal or groundbreaking or anything like so intense. I am, once I finish it, gonna do a whole video dedicated to this one where I'll talk more in depth on my thoughts, and obviously I can consolidate what I actually thought. I will put my rating here. So this is what I ended up deciding I'd rate it. And then the other book that I'm currently in the middle of is Lore Olympus, which is a graphic novel that got loads of hype. It follows Hades and Persephone. It was on Webtoon and it was insanely popular. This collects the first 25 chapters. I'm on chapter 10. And those were all the books that I read in February. Please let me know what you read in February down below. If you've read any of these and you have any opinions, I'd love to chat with you about them. If you enjoyed this video, liking and maybe even subscribing really helps me out. And that is all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a splendid morning, afternoon, evening / night. My name's Jade. I hope I see you again next time. Goodbye!